Hello children, let me welcome you to the virtual class of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher. Children, we are in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, and because of that we are not able to go to school, but that doesn't mean we are going to stop learning. So we are going to do many lessons which are very interesting from your textbook through the virtual class here. So let us do a lesson in English today. Come on children, so let's do a lesson today in standard 8th English. Okay, and the name of the lesson is The Vet. Now it is a very, very beautiful poem about a doctor. Alright, now as you can see here on the screen, you can see a doctor, but then the doctor is treating a different kind of patient. So what patient is that? What can you see in front of this doctor? There is a very lovely, beautiful cat, and the doctor is so happily treating that cat. So now this doctor is of course a doctor, but then this doctor is a little different from the doctors that we people usually visit when we fall sick. So this particular doctor is an animal doctor. So today we are going to talk about animal doctors, and animal doctors are called as veterinarians. Okay, or in short we call them as vets. So an animal doctor also has to study a lot, just like we have our doctors who do their MBBS, they do their specializations. Some of them treat your bones, some of them treat problems with the brain, some of them treat problems with people's hearts. Now in the same way, a vet has to treat the different parts of the animals also, and also a very special thing about a vet is he has to treat so many different kinds of animals. Now look at this particular picture. Now here we have a vet who has got two patients with him now. So one of them is a dog with an injury on the leg, and the other one is a cat. So now we know that dogs and cats are so different from each other. Of course, they walk on four legs, they have a tail, they have two ears, but they are two different types of animals, isn't it? In the same way, the vet has to treat rabbits also. The vet has to treat snakes also. He has to treat lions also. So can you imagine, the animal kingdom is so wide. When we learn English, when we learn science, we have learned that there are different kinds of animals. There are animals which are vertebrates, there are animals which are invertebrates. Okay, so now a vet has to treat all these different kind of animals. So a vet cannot say that no, this patient of mine is a dog, so I can only look after dogs. So this cow I cannot treat, so take him back. The vet cannot say that. Alright, so that is the speciality or the beauty of being a vet. Now, what do veterinarians actually do? So they care for the health of animals. Okay, now here also in the picture you can see a doctor treating a dog. Then there is another doctor which is looking after a seal. Okay, the middle picture you can see it is a seal. And then there is one more who's looking after a goat, trying to find out the problem which this goat is facing. That means these vets, or the veterinarians as we call them, they treat domestic animals and they treat wild animals also. So a veterinarian has got a very, very difficult job. Alright, they diagnose, treat or research medical conditions and diseases of pets. So what are pets? Pets are the dogs, the cats, the birds that we have in our home. Livestock. Livestock means the cow, sheep, etc. and animals in zoos also. So see the seal there. I think it is a seal which is there in a zoo. So in a zoo there are different kinds of animals. You have lions, tigers, giraffes, deer, monkeys, different kind of birds. So these vets have to treat the animals in the zoo also. Plus the race a track. Now there are certain animals which are used for racing. Like for example, ordinarily we know about horses which are used for racing. Even camels are used for racing. So they have to treat these animals which are used on the race tracks, and also animals which are used in the laboratories for different kind of testing. Now, whenever there is a medicine, before using it on human beings, we always test it on these animals. Okay, so they have to take care of those animals also which are there in the laboratories. So don't you think it is a very, very difficult job? So our poem for today is also about the difficult job that the vets have. So at the end, the poet tells his son that you should not become a vet. Try to become anything else in life, but do not try to become a vet. Because after all, whatever we are doing, children, whatever work you select, whatever career you do, you are doing it for the sake of money. So he says that the vet has to earn his living in a very, very difficult and hard manner. So the poet is dissuading his son from becoming a vet. Alright, so before we go to the actual poem, we will discuss this particular exercise which is there as part of your warming up exercises. So you are going to talk about doctors now. We visit different types of doctors. Suppose you have a simple cold and fever, then we need not go to a specialist. Okay, we go to a general physician who is just done an MBBS. But suppose you have a specific and major problem in your body, especially if there are old people in your house. You will see that sometimes their hands are aching a lot, their legs are paining, their backs are aching because they become old. That means there is some problem with their bones. So we take them to a doctor who specializes in treating our bones. Okay, so in that way, there are doctors who treat our eyes. There are doctors who look specially after our ears, nose, and throats. All right. So this is an exercise about doctors who do special advanced study of specific parts of the body, and then they have special terms. So come on, let us try to match the name of the specialist doctors and what or which part of the body they treat. So the first is a dentist. So which part of your body does a dentist treat, or when you have what kind of problem do you go to a dentist? You run to a dentist when you have some issue with your teeth. When your teeth starts aching or one of your tooth is gone rotten, you rush to a dentist. What about a cardiologist? A cardiologist looks after problems with the heart. So people who are having who have suffered a heart attack, or people who are having a weak heart, okay, people who are having problems with cholesterol, all these people, they consult a cardiologist. What about an ophthalmologist? So an ophthalmologist treats diseases of the eye. So now many people, when they become old, they are not able to see properly, and they also develop various issues with their eyes. So then what do? They go to the ophthalmologist. Even otherwise, not even the old people, even young people, sometimes we can't see properly. Alright, you can't see things which are far off, you can't see things which are near you. So what do? Again, you go to an ophthalmologist and he gives you specs to wear. He tells you this is the problem with your eye and now you're not able to see properly, so you're supposed to use spectacles or specs. Now many of us have this problem today because we watch too much of TV and we use the computer too much. We are on the phone all the time. So most of us have to go to the ophthalmologist more often. Now what about an orthopedic? So if you have any issues with your joints, with your bones, then you rush to an orthopedic. Pediatricians, they treat small kids. Now this is also a difficult job, children. Pediatrician's job is also a little difficult because see, we are adults. Okay, I can go and tell my doctor what is happening with me, where it is paining, what is the issue. But just imagine a pediatrician, he has to treat very small children who keep on crying without telling the doctor what is wrong with them. So this job is also a little difficult. The next one, a neurologist, he deals or she deals with brain and with spine. So if you have any problem with your brain, that is, you're not able to remember things, you keep forgetting things, okay, and if you have some problem with your spine, your back is aching and your neck is aching and such things, then you go to a neurologist. And finally, we have the veterinarian. So the veterinarian looks after animals and birds. So this is the most difficult of all jobs. Okay, we have many different kind of doctors, but the work of the doctor, which is the most difficult, is the work of the veterinarian, because he has to look after not only animals but also birds. All right, so can you imagine how difficult it must be? So now, how will you match and write the alphabet? So for 1 it is D, for 2 it is G, for 3 it is F, for 4 it is A, for 5 it is C, for 6 B, and for 7 you have E. Alright, so we have tried to match all these words. Now remember children, I will not keep repeating because I've repeated myself many a times in the past also. Whenever we come up with a question like this where you're supposed to give out answers or you're expected to find answers, always pause the video, because I will be giving you the answers. That is okay, but then you should pause the video before looking at my answers and try to solve the questions on your own. Alright, so let us now come to the main part of our lesson, that is, let us read the poem and let us try to understand what the poet wants to talk about the vet and how he is in one way appreciating the work which is done by the vet. He's saying that it is extremely difficult, but how the vet still carries on and does his job competently. So I will mark the lines which I am reading as usual, so you can also follow me. And always remember, when you're doing a lesson in English, you should keep your textbook open. So if you have your textbook, kindly open it so that you can read the poem along with me. So the vet. Now like I told you, the vet is a short form for veterinarian. Okay. So to be a successful and competent vet needs, now what is competent? Competent means what? Competent means someone who's an expert. Okay. To be a successful and competent vet needs knowledge exceedingly wide. For each of the patients he is likely to get possesses a different insight. Now the spelling of different is slightly erroneous over here, but remember children, this is a picture from your textbook. Okay, so that is a mistake. That's a typing mistake. So what they are saying is, to be a successful and competent vet, if you want to be a successful vet, that means you have to know about different kind of animals. Okay, now each of these animals has got a different insight. That is, if you open up a human being, you will see that all of us have got our heart, our lungs, our kidney, etc. in the same places. But if you open up different kind of animals, then you will see that they do not have certain body parts also. For example, a cow, a buffalo, they have more than one stomach, whereas a dog doesn't have more than one stomach. Alright, so everything, all the interior parts, that is the parts which are inside the body of different animals is different. So he has to know, or he has to have an idea about the insides of all the different animals. He must know why the cat is refusing her milk. So one fine day, if the cat stops drinking milk, he should know the reason. Why the dog is not eating his bone. Now the dog doesn't want his bone. And you know, dogs love to eat bones. Now there is this particular dog which doesn't want to eat his bone. Now the vet should know the reason why. It is expected that the vet knows why the dog is not eating his bone. Why the coat of the horse is not shining like silk. So now when a horse is very healthy, you will see that his coat or the skin of the horse shines. Can you see this horse over here and see how his skin is shining? So why the coat of the horse is not shining like silk? Why the parrot does nothing but groan? So all this the vet has to know. He must know why the cat is refusing her milk, why the dog is not eating his bone, why the coat of the horse is not shining like silk, why the parrot does nothing but groan. So all these reasons he should know. Now at the end of this page, we will see how many pictures of animals will come up, okay? And how all these animals are so different from each other. Why the ducks and the chickens are failing to lay. Lay means lay eggs. So what is the primary work of the ducks and chickens? They lay eggs, and these eggs are then sold in the market. So why these ducks and chickens are not laying eggs anymore? So that is also one problem that the vet should know the answer to. Why so faint the canary bird sings? Now canaries are birds which sing very, very loudly and shrilly. So one day suddenly, if the canary loses his or her voice and starts singing very faintly, then that also the vet should know. And if he is called to the zoo, he must an incredible number of things. So if he is called to the zoo, he must say an incredible number of things, means he should say lots of things. Once again, let's read this last stanza again. So why the ducks and the chickens are failing to lay? Why so faint the canary bird sings? And if he is called to the zoo, he must say an incredible number of things. So he should say about all these things, because if he is called to the zoo, in the zoo, you know, there are so many different kind of animals. So see, in the first 3 stanzas, he has to solve the problem of so many animals which are so different from each other. He should solve the problem of the cats, the dogs, the horses, the parrot, the ducks and chickens, and the canary. Let's move on and see the next stanzas now. If the lion's caught a cold. So now the lion has caught a cold. If the zebra's getting old. Now there's a zebra which is getting old, and the zebra suddenly become very weak. The vet has to know how to treat both of them, the lion with the cold as well as the old zebra. If the centipede has trouble with his feet. Now you know a centipede has so many feet. Alright, it is said to have 100 tiny little feet. So if a centipede has trouble with his feet, if the hippo's feeling ill, if the bison's got a chill, if the Arctic fox is suffering from heat. So now see the problems here. The lion has got a cold, the zebra is getting old, now the centipede has got so many feet, tiny, tiny, tiny feet, hundreds of them. So then how will the vet know which of his the feet is causing trouble to the centipede? But he has to know. He cannot say, no, I don't know. If the hippo suddenly started feeling ill, and the bison has also got a chill, means the bison is also feeling cold and is getting feverish. And if the Arctic fox is suffering from heat, now see, the Arctic fox lives in a cold region, so he cannot stand heat. The bison, when the bison falls sick, what happens to him? The bison starts feeling cold. If the Arctic fox falls sick, it starts feeling hot. So see how the problems are very, very different. But the vet has got no excuses. The vet has to know about all of them. Next, if some virulent disease. So what is a virulent disease? A virulent disease is caused by a virus. Now we are all well versed with this term virus now, because we are all in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. Okay, so viruses are very tiny and things which you cannot even see, but they will make you sick. Okay, so if some virulent disease has attacked the chimpanzees. So now there's a chimpanzee and it has got some kind of a viral infection. If the tortoise hasn't stirred for several years. Now there is this tortoise as it is. the tortoise moves very slowly. Now, if it stops moving altogether, then the vet has to know what is wrong with him. If the bears, and stirred means moved, okay? If the bear's too full of buns means if the bear becomes very, very active one day and starts dancing around and acting very funnily, then also the vet will have to treat the bear. If the cobra eats her sons, now many a times snakes, when the cobra gives birth to small, you can say baby snakes, okay? Now sometimes what happens, these animals, many animals, not only the cobra but many other animals also, they eat away their young ones. All right, so if the cobra eats her young ones, even then the vet is supposed to know why the cobra is behaving in this manner. If the panther has a wife who chews his ears, so the panther is a kind of a black cat. It is a wild cat. Okay, just like the leopard and just like the other cheetah, etc. It is also a kind of a wild cat, but it is totally black in color. So there is a panther whose wife is chewing on his ears. Even that the vet has to find a solution for. If giraffes have had a tiff and their necks are feeling stiff. Now here tiff means a small fight. So two giraffes, they have had a fight, and these people, they fight with their necks. All right, and after fighting for long, their necks have suddenly started paining. It has become stiff. The vet, poor thing, will have to treat the giraffes as well. Moving on, let's get to the next paragraph, next stanza. If hyenas will not laugh at keepers' jokes. So hyenas are animals which are supposed to laugh. Laugh means they have a kind of a peculiar bark, just like dogs bark, cats mew. In the same way, hyenas also produce a kind of sound which sounds like they are laughing. So we say a hyena's laugh. So hyenas have stopped laughing at the keeper's jokes. So the ones who take care of them in the zoo, the zookeepers, suddenly the zookeeper cracks a joke and the hyena will not laugh. So that is also a problem for the vet to solve. If the monkey's pinched his tail, so the monkey, naughty monkey, he has pinched his own tail. If the rhino's looking pale, now the rhino is looking very pale, maybe he doesn't have blood in his body. If the elephant eats paper bags and chokes, now the elephant has eaten some paper bags and he started choking, he can't breathe, okay, and he is in trouble. People run to call the vet. If the camel hurts his hump, so the camel has hurt his hump, poor thing. If the kangaroo won't jump, now kangaroos, they jump from one place to another. Suddenly the kangaroo stopped jumping. People will rush to call the vet. If the crocodile turns cannibal and bites, the crocodiles are actually cannibals. They eat anything which they find. Okay, a cannibal means something which eats human beings. So in rare situations, you will see that crocodiles, they even eat human beings. If you get into the river at the wrong time, they run away and get that omniscient the vet. So omniscient here means one who knows everything, and accept him to put everything to rights. So if the crocodile turns cannibal and bites, they run away and get that omniscient the vet and expect him to put everything to rights. All right, so this is how difficult the work of a vet is. See, he has to look after so many different kind of animals. The last stanzas in the poem. Profoundly I pity the vet who must learn. Profoundly means lots, deeply, okay, or I have a lot of pity for the vet. So profoundly I pity the vet who must learn. such a very great deal for his pay. My son, I advise you most strongly to earn your living an easier way. So I told you, the poet is telling his son that do not choose to be a vet, because if you do that, you will have to learn so much for your pay. Doctors who treat human beings have to study only about the human body, but a vet has to study about the body of an elephant, a body of a monkey, a tiger, a hippo, a fox, and the list is endless. Don't attempt to attend the zoological crowd. A far more advisable plan is to call yourself doctor and so be allowed to treat the illnesses of man. So he says you become a doctor who is supposed to treat the illnesses or the diseases of human beings, of man. Do not get into the trouble of joining the zoological crowd, that is the people who are vets or who are veterinarians. So keep yourself away from veterinarians and try to become a doctor who treats human beings. That is what the poet wants to tell his son. So this is a kind of a funny, you can say, poem. Okay, so let us move on now and let us look at some exercises which are there in the book. But before that, see, this is a doctor who treats human beings. And here is a doctor who treats animals. So they pretty much look the same. But then now, after reading the entire poem, you know how difficult the job of a vet is as compared to the job of an ordinary human doctor. So a human doctor sometimes has to treat fair people. Sometimes a human doctor has to treat dark-skinned people. Sometimes he has to treat old people and sometimes young people. But all these people, they have the same kind of bodies. So inside the body of a young person or an old person or a fair person or a dark person, you will see the same body parts in the same places almost. Okay, but just imagine the life of a vet. See, the vet has to treat a dog. Sometimes he has to treat a bird. Now see, the dog is so different from a bird. Sometimes he has to treat even huge animals like the camel. Look at this, and look at the way the camel is being treated. I think they're trying to get an X-ray of him, and it is such a huge animal, isn't it? They have to first calm it down. Otherwise, human peer, when we go to visit a doctor and the doctor wants to give us an injection or something, you will never bite a doctor or scratch a doctor. But these patients, the patients who go to vets, you can never trust. They can bite and scratch also. Okay, so it is so difficult to handle these animals. Sometimes a vet also has to treat snakes. See? So the body of a snake is totally different from the body of a bird or a camel or a dog. So that is how the job of a vet is extremely difficult. And that is what we learned in this poem. Now we will do some exercises. We will try to see what is the rhyme scheme of stanzas 1 to 3 and the last two stanzas. So we will not look at each of the stanzas separately. Let me do one as an example for you, and the remainings you try and do it yourself. So let us look at the first and the second stanza here. So let us try and see what the rhyme scheme of these two stanzas are. So, to be a successful and competent vet. Now see the sound of the last word. It is the T sound, the sound of the T at the end. So vet. So let us give it the name A. We name these rhymes as A, B, C, D, E, F and so on. Needs knowledge exceedingly wide. Now this wide doesn't sound like wet. They are two different sounds. So let us call the second line as rhyme scheme B. Okay. Come to the third one. For each of the patients he is likely to get. So see, the get sounds similar to wet. So we can call this as A again. So wet matches with get. Now let's talk about the next line. Let's see whether it is matching with this B. Possesses a different inside. So see, inside and wide, they rhyme. Okay, so we call this as line B. So the rhyme scheme for the first stanza is AB, AB. Look at the next one now. He must know why the cat is refusing her milk. Now milk, again we call it A. Why the dog is not eating his bone. Okay, we call it B again. Now when you have to rhyme the entire poem, children, you will call this as C. But now we are comparing. Okay, that is why we are trying to use the same letters of the alphabet. Why the coat of the horse is not shining like silk. Why the parrot does nothing but groan. So see here, the first line rhymes with the third line and the second line rhymes with the fourth line. Even in the first stanza, the first line rhymes with the third line and the second line rhymes with the fourth line. So you have a common kind of a rhyme scheme, AB, 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 AB. Okay, now like I told you again, wet and milk do not sound the same. So milk should ideally be sound C. But here, just to bring out the similarity, I've used the same letters. So what will be the rhyme scheme? Third one, now you check out what the rhyme scheme of the third one is. Is it similar to these two? So does the first line rhyme with the third and the second line rhyme with the fourth? Check and then arrive at the answer. So the answer is the rhyme scheme of stanzas 1 to 3 is AB, AB. What is the meaning of AB, AB here? Specifically, A means the first line, rhymes with the A, that means the third line, and B, the second line, rhymes with the fourth line. So that is what we want to say. Coming to the next one, how does it differ from the remaining stanzas 4 to 7? So now for this you will have to study stanzas 4 to 7 and you will have to see whether it is different or whether it is the same. So come on, pause the video, check the answer and then come back and check your answer with mine. So the rhyme scheme of stanzas 4 to 7 is different. It is AAB, CCB. That means the first two lines have the same sound. Third line has got a different sound which is the same as the last line. And the fourth and the fifth lines again have the same sound. Let us just check. Let us go to the poem and let us just check it. Okay. So here we come back to our poem and look at this. Profoundly I pity the wet who must learn such a great deal for his pay. My son, I advise you strongly to earn. So check up these lines and see what the rhyme scheme is. Okay, so this was the exercise about rhyme schemes. Now a little part I've left for you. So there is a little bit of fill in the blanks that you are supposed to do. So read the poem well and try to find out answers to it. Let us now go to the next one. Write any 5 illnesses of animals in the poem that you find most amusing or laughable. That is, when you read this particular illness of the animal, you find it very funny because you as human beings cannot relate to this kind of an illness in your own bodies. So, the lion's got a cold. So, have you ever heard of a lion catching a cold? We have never seen a lion catching a cold, isn't it? The centipede has trouble with his feet. So this is very amusing. Then the Arctic fox is suffering from heat because the Arctic fox lives in such a cold region. How can it suffer from heat? And then you have the monkey pinched his own tail. That is also funny. And the kangaroo won't jump is also funny. Now these are the lines which are funny and amusing for me. Now this is a subjective question. You might find that some other problems are funny and amusing. You can write them down as answers. Okay. Now, the last exercise over here is, out of all the names of animals and birds given in the poem, you are supposed to pick out 4 names that are similar in English as well as in Hindi, Marathi or your mother tongue. Now your mother tongue may be Hindi, it may be Marathi or it may be any other language. So I am going to hold Hindi and Marathi as a common thing. So the names of certain animals in English as well as in Hindi or Marathi will be the same. So which are these 4 animals? Come on, search for the answer and then come back and check with the answer with mine. So zebra is called as zebra in English as well as in Hindi and Marathi. Kangaroo is called as kangaroo in Hindi and Marathi as also in English. The pronunciation may be a little different. Okay. Giraffe, chimpanzee, cheetah. So these are all common names. Okay. So that was about this particular lesson, the vet. So what did we do? We first tried to understand who a vet is and how a vet is different from the other doctors that we know of. So a vet is a doctor who treats animals, and then we decided that his job is very difficult. The job of a vet is extremely difficult. And when we read the poem, we really came to the conclusion that yes, indeed, the job of the vet is extremely difficult because all his patients are different from each other. Okay, and then finally we did some exercises about rhyme scheme and some exercises about vocabulary. So that is all for today, children, in this particular lesson. So children, now you have watched the video. So after you watch the video now, you will have to complete a few simple tasks. Now you might have watched the video on your computers or your laptops or your mobile phones. Now after you watch the video, what will you do? You will please go to the description box which is given below the video. So what is the description box? See, the description box looks like this. Alright, and after you go to the description box, you will see that there are a few questions there. Now what are these questions about? These questions are about the lesson that we just learned or the video that you just watched. So what will you do? You will think back properly about the lesson and you will try and answer these questions and note down the answers in your notebook if you want. Okay? After that, we have another task waiting. You will also click on the link which you will find in the description box to fill up the Google form. So now what is the Google form, children? It is nothing but a simple form. There are a few simple questions there about the video which you just saw and also about yourself. So these are the tasks now that you will have to complete after you watch each video. So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learnt a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.